Hey everyone, so I have bought a few things for the garden this year that are going to be new and I think are going to make life, well, either easier in the garden or just something to look pretty and put more plants in. So let me show you what I've got so far, and then one of the things I have to put together, and it didn't come with instructions. So we're going to see how that goes, and then we'll move that piece to the garden. So first off, I've learned, so we've been here since 2020. I've learned in that time, especially as I've put more containers into my garden, that regular hoses just don't really work the best. I mean, I can still water my garden, but it's not the easiest because there's so many obstacles with my raised beds, individual pots. I have a hard time kind of getting around the corners. It's not like my garden is a big open space, and I have broken numerous branches off of plants that are lower to the ground as I'm trying to get the hose around. So last year on the back deck, which is really the first year I've had the full garden back there, I decided to get a flexible hose. Since I wasn't sure if I was going to like it, I just got a cheaper one on Amazon to see in general if I liked the idea of a flexible hose. I loved it. It made watering my plants so much easier. Now, I do have an irrigation system on both the front and the back deck that I have set up. The reason why I still use a hose is, one, I just need it in terms of like watering in new plants. Some of my pots aren't actually hooked up to drip depending on where they are in the garden. And then also some plants that are in smaller pots need to be watered more often than the drip irrigation runs. Although I say I'm going to try to get away from more small pots, what inevitably happens is that I have extra plants and throw them in whatever pot's available. Also, this that I'm going to put together today, I don't think it'll be something that will be easily set up on drip. So I do still need a hose in the garden. And what I did, so the cheap hose on the back deck, like I said, worked really well, but it broke maybe in like 2 months, which is an issue I know happens with flexible hoses. So what I did is I went on Instagram and I kind of crowdsourced for the best flexible hoses, and there were 2 that came out like way ahead that had maybe 20 plus recommendations each, whereas any other recommendation was just kind of one off. So what I'm going to do this year, I've already taken kind of the regular hoses and the hose reel downstairs because we do have a hose like hookup down there that we don't have a hose for. But this was the #1 kind of fabric flexible hose brand. It's called 0G. I got it on Amazon. I can't remember the price off the top of my head, but I think it was maybe like around the $40, $50. So it was something where I wanted to make sure I liked the idea of a flexible hose before I invested that much into it. But people have said that they drag these around on cement, on the ground. I have a deck, so I'm hoping that won't like tear it up as much, but they've said they dragged it around for years. They leave it out in the sun, even though technically you're not supposed to let it lay in the sun. So I have high hopes. So I have 2 of these. One's gonna go on the front, one's gonna go on the back. It just makes maneuvering around so much easier. So if you don't have a garden that has a wide open space, like if you have a lot of turns to get around, I would recommend a flexible hose. Now, like I said, storage is a little bit different, so you don't want to keep it in the sun, and you want to empty out the hose every time you use it. So basically how I do that, because I did it with the one last year, is I just used a large pot to store it in, because I was thinking of using a bucket. But if I use a bucket and lay the hose in it and it rains, then the hose is going to be sitting in water, and that's probably not great for it. So I had just a regular pot. It had a drainage hole. If it ever did get rained on, the rain drained out the bottom of the drainage hole. I think that worked really well. And then as far as draining it every time I used it, I thought that would be more annoying than it actually was. But essentially I have on my hose, I'll do my whole like watering system set up for you in another video. But I have like the hose faucet, and then I have a splitter, and each splitter comes with a little switch. So when I'm done using the hose, I go up to the little splitter, I turn it into the off position instead of the on, then I empty out the hose into a plant, and then the hose is empty. And it just takes a few seconds. Again, it's a few seconds I maybe wouldn't do with a regular hose, but it's worth it. It's not really that much of a pain to do every time I water. So I'm excited to see how these do. I got the 50 foot. My deck is just under 20 by 20, so I'm hoping that works. Like having to maneuver around, that should be fine. Fingers crossed, but I will update you on how these hoses do this year. I just really want to get multiple years out of them instead of the last one that broke really easily. But again, that was a super cheap version of a flexible hose. So that is number one. Number two are grow bags. And I've used grow bags before, but one of the things I've liked the least about grow bags is how they look. They're not really meant to be pretty. They're meant to help you grow vegetables in containers in a really great way. I love grow bags. They work really well, especially in my environment where a lot of the plants in my garden are susceptible to root rot because of the amount of rain that we get. So they just drain absolutely perfectly in my garden. So what I've used in the past are black grow bags, which I do like. I don't tend to have that many black pots just because, I mean, if you care about aesthetics, you do. If you don't, you don't. I happen to. But the decking and the brick are all brown tones. So I would rather have pots or grow bags in this case that blend in with the tones of my deck so that it's the plants that stand out and not the containers that they're in. So I do have black grow bags. They're fine. I do like the black better than beige, which is what I got a couple years ago to try out because beige shows all of the dirt. Also, the beige ones didn't seem quite as durable as the black ones. But I will link down the black grow bags that I do use, again, because they seem durable. I like them. Black's just not my favorite color pot. But what I got is some brown grow bags from Bootstrap Farmer. Now, this is my first ever Bootstrap Farmer purchase. I know a lot of people use, I think mostly seed startup kits from them. I just really like my Jiffy Pea pellets. I got these. This is not sent to me. I ordered them off of, I think, Amazon, not their regular website. But they have different colored grow bags. I think they have like green, red, blue, orange, maybe black, and brown. So let me open this up and we'll take a look at the grow bags. Okay, so what I got is a 10 pack of 7-gallon grow bags. I have found that 7-gallon is my favorite size for my garden. That's the size I use for all of my dinner plate dahlias. That's worked great the last few years. I'll usually do like 1 pepper plant, 1 cucumber plant in 7 gallons, and they seem really happy. 5 gallons, I used to use a lot of, they just seemed a little bit too small for some of my plants. And then 10, I do still have 10-gallon grow bags, but again, with limited space, they also seemed a little too large, not large enough to fit 2 plants in. So if I can use a 7-gallon grow bag for 1 plant versus a 10-gallon for 1 plant, and they both work the same, 7-gallon, it takes up less space. But this is a color brown that I really like. It's kind of more of like a reddish brown and also a darker tone. Let's open these up and take out one to look at. So this, I shouldn't be unfolding this yet since I don't plan to put it out in the garden anytime soon, and I like to keep things kind of kept away and folded up before I do that. But this is a 7-gallon grow bag. It looks a lot bigger on camera compared to my head, but it's a really good size. So I think this is going to work out great. I think it's going to do a great job of hiding the dirt compared to the beige one. The handles, I can tell, are sewn on a lot better than the beige ones as well, because the only issue, I haven't had an issue with the grow bags themselves kind of tearing, but I have had an issue with handles falling off, specifically the beige grow bags. But these I can already tell are sewn on much better. So I have 10 of these. I'm gonna actually store, well, that's convenient. I'm storing the other 9 grow bags in the 10th grow bag. So I'm excited. I think I have 2 dahlias in grow bags. So I'll probably keep them in that grow bag, but any new dahlia tubers that I will be getting, which I will be getting some new dahlia tubers, I'll take you along with me as I go shopping for those. But those will be grown in here. I still have, like I said, black grow bags, so I might continue to use the black ones on the front deck where I have the large 30-gallon black grow bag, just so that those all blend together and look cohesive. And again, you don't have to care about how your garden looks. The most important part of it is growing your plants. But for me, just visually, I feel like it's more relaxing being in the garden when, like I said, the containers kind of blend in, because I tend to have a lot of brightly colored plants. And when I have a lot of brightly colored plants and then different colored pots, I don't know, to me, it's just not quite as relaxing in the garden. So I'm excited for these. let me go kind of push all this stuff to the side, and then I'll show you the item that I've kind of tailored to my own needs that I need to figure out how to put together. Okay, so over here and back here are the different pieces of what I got to make my own vertical planter in my garden. So this is gonna go on the back deck, which I consider my more formal garden. And I really wanted to add some more vertical planting options because, again, with a small space, you're kind of restricted on how far out you can go. So you also want to try to go up. Now I have been looking at, are they called the green stalks, which are like the large and they spin. I haven't made the investment yet in one of those because, one, I don't know how they'll do up here because they are so tall and we get a lot of wind. And I don't know if I love the look of them, but I still might get one in the future. I'm always open to changing my opinion, so we'll see. So what I was on the lookout for is something that I felt was like a pretty vertical planter. And what I found first on Wayfair was this item. I'll put in a picture of it put together, but it's more meant for like having displays of bouquets, whether you are like having a wedding party and having flowers and bouquets, whether you are like outside of a shop and have bouquets for sale. And I thought this would be a perfect thing to turn into a vertical planter. Now, one thing I want to mention is that I first saw it on Wayfair and it seemed a little highly priced for what it was. So what I always recommend doing, and this worked out really great in this case, is download the image on your phone, or you can do it on a computer, take a screenshot or download the image, then upload it or search for it through Google Images, and oftentimes that will then show you everyone that either sells that item or something very similar. And when I did that, I found this version of it, which was the exact same as far as I could tell as the one on Wayfair, for $50 cheaper. So I always recommend doing that to try to find the lowest price. Now again, sometimes if it's not the exact same quality, it might be different, but this seemed like the exact same item. So it came with 12 buckets here, and it's kind of hard because these are so vertical. I'm not sure exactly how much it holds. It might be maybe a little less, like 4 gallons, 3 gallons, but maybe just the size is throwing me off, and it is about 5 gallons. It's a good size vertical pot. And because it was a bucket originally, I drilled 2 holes in the bottom for drainage. I was a bit nervous about drilling the holes because I didn't want to crack it. I asked again on Instagram for recommendations and people just said it should be fine, just go slow. And that's exactly what I did. I just went really slow. I pushed down kind of firm, but not too hard, and was able to pretty quickly drill drainage holes in the bottom of these. I am a bit nervous, again, because it is more vertical. It's going to take more time for the water to seep down, so I might add a 3rd drainage hole, but we'll see how it goes. So these have all been drilled and turned into now pots with drainage holes instead of just buckets. I can't think of a time in my garden where I would use a pot that doesn't have drainage. Indoors I have, because I completely control the amount of water my plants get inside, but I cannot control Mother Nature. So I wouldn't want to use a pot outside that doesn't have a drainage hole. And I tend to find, again, specific for my environment and the amount of rain that we get, that even if a pot comes with a spot for 1 drainage hole, I usually add in more, because the more drainage holes, the better to prevent root rot. So these are the buckets. These should be the last thing that goes into the frame. Now I need to figure out how to put this frame together without the instructions. They might be available online, but I figure let's try it on my own first, have a little fun, and see how it goes. Okay, so first I'm going to lay out all the pieces that look similar to each other. These are definitely what holds the buckets together. It looks like the screws are already on them, because what was also interesting is it didn't come with a bag of tools or screws like I'm used to. But it seems like the screws are on these pieces already. It did, however, oh, I didn't mention it, but it did come with wheels, which I love things on wheels in my garden to easily move them around. So it did come with 4 wheels and then this little wrench. So first things first, we figure out what the bottom is. And I think the bottom is this piece because it has 4 places for me to drill into. So let's move you out of the way. You are probably the top. And let's go ahead and put the wheels on, I think. think they just screw in. It does have locks on it too, which is great. I usually do leave mine in the locked position so they don't roll around on the deck, especially if it's windy. Then I'll unlock them if I have to move them. I also think I'm gonna like this because it does seem pretty lightweight. I mean, the buckets themselves are plastic. This is stainless steel and it's coated, so it's supposed to be like rust resistant, which also means I can leave it outside. And I love any sort of container that I can leave outside in the winter because that's fewer things that I have to move inside. I already move in all of my terracotta pots, which I have a lot of, any ceramic pots, but anything like this I can leave outside, and I prefer that if possible. Okay, wheels are on, and that must mean you are the bottom. Okay, so I've pulled out the picture on my phone, and I think the next step is maybe to use this to loosen the bolt. And then, does this feel right? I don't know if this feels right. Okay, let's screw this back on. I'm like 75% sure I'm doing this correctly. Okay, now I think you go on here. Do I have to put those in first? Maybe not, we'll see. Okay, now hopefully if I bend you back, you line up, and you do. It's almost like I know what I'm doing. Okay, let's turn this around because that's the back. Now, we put the rings on. I'm assuming these are all the same length, so it doesn't matter which one goes on which section. I'm excited. This is coming together much easier than I thought. Even easier than items I have instructions for. This made pretty good sense, even not really knowing what I'm doing. Here she is, really easy to put together. I'm very excited. So my plan for this, I'll move it out to the back deck with you because once again, it's like almost 60 degrees. So I'll move it out to the back deck. I don't know yet where it's going to sit permanently. Well, I mean, it's on wheels, I can move it whatever I want. But in terms of where it's going to start and when I plant it up, I don't know yet because I need to get everything back out onto the deck before I decide where it's all going to go. But what I think I'm going to plant in here, so even though I already have more seed than I have space for, I had to get some zinnias from Floret. I think it was the precious metals. So my thought is, I'm just gonna do one plant in every bucket because I think that's all that can really fit. I wanna do a combination of both petunias, so that something trails down, and zinnias to get something growing vertically. I don't know if I'm gonna do like a 50-50 split yet between zinnias and petunias, but that's my idea, at least for now. So we'll kind of see how it goes, but I think this would be great for anything. It'd be great for strawberries, anything that you want to grow that could kind of fit in, again, like a 3-ish gallon container. Maybe it's 4 gallons. It's hard to tell based on the shape. I'm hoping 1 zinnia per pot though does pretty well, but I'm excited. So let me move this outside and show you what it looks like out in the garden. So for now, I just have it here in this corner. I don't know if I want to keep it here because usually I have morning glory growing up trellises, so we'll see how it goes, but at least now it's kind of out of the way of the rest of the garden. But I think that fits really nicely just tucked into that little corner. So that's everything for this video. It's so nice to be moving things back into position. I feel like, well, I'm gonna be starting seeds indoor in like the next week or two, and then soon I'm gonna be planting outside. I'm so excited. So I will link everything down below. However, let me say, I haven't actually used any of this yet, so I can't say how it does. I'm also gonna link down the other hose people recommended, which was a metal flexible hose, but those were the two, the 0G, the metal one, that got by far the most recommendations. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. I definitely will show you when I plant this up too, but that probably won't be until May. I'm definitely gonna wait until, well, after last frost might be tomorrow, who knows anymore, but I'm gonna wait till it's time for the warm season plants to get that started.